Today I found something pretty interesting that I just can't resist the urge to share with all of you. I'm just kidding. That's a classic gag right there. I got you good. But I did actually read something pretty fascinating. It was an independent study that was conducted that found 72% of games industry executives believe that Steam has a monopoly on PC games. And this is an interesting topic and something that I've talked about on stream quite a bit, but I want to yap about this because they're not entirely wrong. Steam is like a diet monopoly when it comes to PC games, but not because they use like monopolistic tactics or anything. They literally just offer a better service than anything else that seems to come up and literally do nothing and win just by being better than all of the competitors that try and enter the market. Developers and players just naturally gravitate towards Steam. And thus they do kind of have like a stranglehold, like nipple clamps on PC games market. So like they do have oomph. And you can make an argument that they're like a soft monopoly. But I think it tells a very interesting story because there are alternatives, there are competitors. They just don't necessarily thrive. So anytime that a new games platform tries to enter the market to compete with Steam, they do their own version, with blackjack and hookers and whatever. And it usually flounders. Like it usually flatlines pretty quickly because it's just inferior to Steam. Even though Steam has remained largely unchanged for the longest time, it has cemented itself as just a really easy to use platform that's just extremely convenient for developers and players. So a new platform springing up, it's got its work cut out for it. But that's not to say they don't exist, because there are a lot of alternatives. Well, maybe a lot's being a little charitable. There are some alternatives. Some of them are even decent, like GOG. Even though in recent times I've had extraordinarily horrible luck with GOG and getting games to actually fucking work through there, it is a service that is good, but it's not really comparable to Steam or anything. And then there's things like the Epic Game Store, which I think did try and employ monopolistic tactics to compete with Steam. Epic Game Store, I don't know how many of you remember, was trying to incentivize developers to marry themselves to their platform exclusively. Basically trying to have their own console wars between these platforms of Steam versus Epic Game Store. So they would steal away developer titles to go to the Epic Game Store through incentives. And it didn't work because Epic Game Store itself is just not a great platform. So people don't like to use it willingly. Very few people choose Epic Game Store over Steam. So it hasn't beaten Steam, and it's kind of a joke that's gotten a lot of resentment because of some of their tactics they've used to try and compete. Whereas Steam doesn't really do any of that, it just kind of sits there fucking lollipop in hand and does nothing and is winning. All these other platforms spring up and usually just run themselves straight into the shitter. So Steam just always prevails in the end. And that does put it in a position where it is like a soft monopoly. Worth mentioning about this study in particular, 75% of respondents were senior managers of C-suite level, with 77% from studios with more than 50 employees. And the study found that for a majority of the studios, Steam accounts for over 75% of revenue. And then they do briefly mention that developers started utilizing Epic Game Store and the Xbox PC Game Store. But again, it's clear Steam is the bulk of the balloons here. It is fascinating because, as I briefly mentioned, Steam doesn't do anything to try and solidify this pseudo-monopoly. They don't have parameters in place to try and force people to use Steam and drive out competition or anything like that. They literally just plant their feet and lat spread and just sit there menacingly, to the point where if you're a developer releasing on PC and you choose not to release on Steam, you are cutting your own nuts off. You are doing yourself a huge disservice in not having your game in front of all of those Steam users. And again, it's not Steam that's doing that and putting that fear of God in you. It's just gamers choose Steam, so if your game's not on Steam, they might not be buying it at all in general. They might not even give it the time of day. So it's very interesting, because again, Steam, at least not to anything I've ever seen, has never really tried to do anything to be a monopoly in the PC gaming space. They've just always been really convenient, user-focused, and first and foremost, just accessible to developers and users, that they are just the best service. Now, of course, it's not perfect. Nothing ever will be. Like, I fucking hate the Steam friend UI and all that. I bitch and moan about that endlessly on stream whenever I'm trying to, like, co-op with friends on different games. But, like, overall, the Steam platform is better than any other games platform that has come out, generally speaking. So it's hard to compete with that. So even though Steam's doing nothing, like, they don't need to, like, innovate or change things. They just have to not wipe their whole ass with everything they've built over the last couple of decades. And so far, they've been doing a great job of not just fucking it all up. And that seems to be, like, all they do. They are doing nothing to limit competition or anything. I have to imagine at the Steam HQ, they don't even know that they're ever in a competition with other game platforms. They probably have no fucking idea about, like, what Epic Game Store does with trying to get, like, exclusives and shit in the past. Like, I doubt they even have it as a blip on their radar. Now, normally, monopolies are a really bad thing for consumers. That's typically bad news. You do not want monopolies because there's no incentive to be the best service. There's no incentive to change or improve or get better for consumers because what's the point? There's no alternatives. And like I said, Steam is not a monopoly. But it kind of is like a de facto monopoly in the sense that pretty much everyone is choosing Steam, developer and players alike. So all the other alternative platforms, they're not exactly, you know, popping off or anything like that. They're not out there wiggling their finger in celebration with how great everything's going there compared to like a Steam or something. But Steam is the best thing for consumers right now in this market. There isn't a better alternative. So it is weird because it is a monopoly that is a monopoly because it just is the best. So people are choosing it willingly. They're not being like, you know, fucking hypnotized into it or something, or they're not being forced to because of lack of alternatives. It is just the best in the industry right now. So everyone goes to it. So it's one of the few times you'll see this kind of report where it's like, oh, this many people believe Steam is a monopoly, and you're like, oh, yeah, good. That's great news. You're right. It's so rare. Because let's take another de facto monopoly, for example. YouTube. It's got a big time stranglehold on video sharing. There's very few alternatives to YouTube, and it's something that's been discussed, yapped about, blabbered about for so many years now, and there just isn't a real YouTube competitor. And what does YouTube do with this swamp-ass throne it finds itself on top of for videos? Well, it doesn't improve, I'll tell you that much. It's definitely not the best it can be. There has been some big-time shitification going on in recent years because where are you going to go? Where are you going? There's nowhere else besides YouTube for video sharing and all of the features that YouTube has available. There isn't a real alternative, and there's no incentive for YouTube to fix the many problems that have been plaguing the site for so long. YouTube can do horrible decision after terrible decision after awful decision till the cows come home out the wazoo, and it doesn't really affect them because there isn't real competition. The users stay because YouTube does have a de facto monopoly. And I imagine 99% of cases, if you ask somebody, do you think it's a good thing that YouTube has this, position here as a de facto monopoly, they'd say no. But then if you ask that same question to somebody about Steam, they would probably say yes. And it's not hard to see why. It's a very big distinction here, I would say. Steam got to this position by just being better than all of the other competitors. I saw a comment that kind of painted it pretty well. Steam isn't a monopoly, its competition is just incompetent. That's pretty true. It's not like Steam has ever, to my knowledge, used its position in the industry to crush the little guy trying to make a startup that's better than Steam or something. All it does is just sit there like a fucking tree. That's all it does. It's been around for so long, it innovated at the very beginning, it cracked the code on what it needed to be the best, and now all they have to do is just not fuck it up. And everyone else that tries to compete in the space just puts out a legitimately worse product, generally speaking. Like I mentioned earlier, GOG I do think offers a different kind of product still in the same space, but having like DRM free copies for older games and stuff is a valuable service to offer, and it is something a bit different than what Steam offers. I just personally haven't had great luck with GOG recently. So anyway, yeah, I do actually kind of agree here. This survey was also conducted by what appears to be another platform that's trying to sell developers on the idea to sell with them. So the study itself is already a little weird, but the actual subject matter of Steam being a soft monopoly is an interesting topic, I think. And it is one where I'd say, yeah, Steam is kind of a soft monopoly. But what's crazy is, I don't think that's a bad thing. They are just the best in the industry for a gaming platform. Like, they just made the best platform, and they haven't done anything, scummy and shady to, like, prevent others from beating them. It's just all the others that compete are worse. So people just go to Steam. Anyway, that's really about it. See ya.